Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode is once again brought to you by our friends over at Galactic Comics and Collectibles at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com, as well as 547 Hammond Street in Bangor, Maine. And fittingly enough, Paul Eaton, owner and proprietor of this local comic book shop, is on this episode to chat the 2003 Daredevil movie starring Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner. But before we listen to this episode, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, all of those places, as well as rate, review, subscribe over on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts on the internet. We're also on YouTube, and you can find reviews, opinions, posts, and so much more over at capesandtights.com. But this is an episode talking the 2003 Daredevil movie with owner of Galactic Comics and Collectibles, Paul Eaton. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, Paul Eaton, Galactic Comics. Paul, it is snowing out, or did snow, I should say. It's not snowing anymore. It's sunny out right now, but it's still freaking cold.
It's very cold.
It's weird.
It's very
usually
cold
in Maine
and very white.
Usually in New England, it's like it feels like when it snows, the next day is usually like you can snow shovel like in a t-shirt because it's like
it gets warm
enough.
cold.
Yeah, no, it's cold right now too.
No,
but
it's went the opposite direction. What is it like? I think it's like one.
It feels like one. Yeah. It feels like one. Which is kind of funny because I'm also laughing. Normally, the weather is bad when I talk to someone who's not from Maine. Like, I'll talk to someone from California and be like, "Oh, really? Oh, yeah, it snowed 6-7 inches last night." Oh, like, oh, cool. No, now I'm like, we live across town, so like we're both had the same.
Is it snowing at your house? Yeah.
We both shoveled. We both did all this stuff. It's fine. And the other thing I wanted to get off the top here, Paul, is it's not going to come out on Garrett's birthday, but it's Garrett's birthday.
Today is Garrett's birthday.
Garrett.
Recording day is the birthday of the big G that works here.
Yeah, works here. You use air quotes.
Well, yeah,
he's employed.
Work's a strong word.
He's employed there.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably better. So
happy birthday, Garrett.
Happy birthday, Garrett. For anyone that listens to this, go over and give him a belated happy birthday if you see him here or at the Hannaford he works at, the other job.
Or just around town or at Bobby's.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Our little Digimon loving buddy, Garrett.
Did you get Scotty Young's email?
I must
it just came through. Whatever. Go through and look at it because he has Gertrude, I Hate Fairyland sneakers in this picture. I don't know. When you get a chance, like they are phenomenal. Custom Gert sneakers. You also look those up.
Anybody who gets it? Because all I've got are the books. There's the hardcovers. Oh, there they are. Oh, dude. What are those, Adidas?
I don't know what they are. They're just dope as hell, though.
Oh, they just where there would be like the shoe logo, it just has the Scotty Young sake. That is awesome. Yeah, hell
that's phenomenal. I wish you could sell those. I'd buy those.
God, yeah. Now
we're not here to talk about that.
In all my copies of I Hate Fairyland from the third
to get the hardcover.
The hardcover,
yeah. We're here to talk Marvel's greatest achievement in the history of mankind of film and cinema. Daredevil. No. Daredevil. Paul. So Daredevil came out around the same time. It was in that time of like X-Men, X2, the first Hulk movie, the not the first Hulk movie. Well, I guess the other ones are TV shows. So it was the first Hulk movie, right?
Yeah, it was the first Hulk movie, which was worse than this, considering.
Yeah, far worse than this. I'll tell you that right now. We'll have arguments. Is it who's that book club that thinks that it's actually pretty good?
Probably Scott.
No, I don't think it's Scott, but whatever.
No,
someone in our book club actually
fights it. Maybe Jason liked it.
I don't know.
And all of the stuff I hated about that movie were all the things they cited as good parts of it.
Yes.
Didn't make any sense to me.
It was 2003. So that was like early Marvel trying to like actually recoup and make movies. Like
this came out, February of 2003?
Yeah, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, okay. So we went and saw this as a date before we got married. Yeah. We were married in 2003. So my wife and I were talking
She still wanted to marry you?
Yeah, I'm shocked. Well, she fell asleep in the theaters during this. Gives you any perspective. Wow. All right, so I can tell you, in 2003, this was one of the best Marvel movies I'd ever seen.
Yes, because okay. So before this,
The competition was pretty light.
Let's talk about this, okay? So Marvel,
Yeah.
okay, these are live action feature films, and these are not the ones that are made for TV like we talked about, and so on and so on. These are actually like theater released movies. So you had Howard the Duck in 1986, okay? Then a 12-year gap and became Blade from New Line Cinema.
Which,
and then
if
it was
you don't know that Blade is Marvel, you wouldn't know that Blade was Marvel.
No. X-Men came out in 2000. So X-Men was the real first Marvel Comics movie that made it to the theaters. That was like a big Marvel Comics thing that was attached to comic books. It was related. It was storylines. I had a lot of
problems with the X-Men movie when it came out because I was such a purist X-Men fan and a 92 X-Men fan, and all the stuff that was different in that movie I had so many issues with I just couldn't handle. The joke about, what do you want us to wear, yellow spandex? And I was like, yes, I do.
Yes. And they finally did it in Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Thank you, Deadpool Wolverine, for giving me my yellow spandex that I wanted.
I guess they did it before that, and they did it in Multiverse of Madness. They had Professor X in the wheelchair, which is kind of not that, but it was the honestly, same time.
It still looked great on screen. Like it looked like what he would look like in the cartoon or in the comics.
Yes. And so Spider-Man,
I had some problems with X-Men. So when I saw Daredevil, I was like, this movie is
going to be
awesome.
What you want. Yeah.
And I wasn't the biggest Daredevil fan. So if you're a bigger Daredevil fan, you may have some problems with his brand of justice in this.
Yeah.
It's not really comic accurate.
No.
Daredevil doesn't kill people in this. He is killing dudes left and right. And if he's not killing them, he's letting them die.
Yes.
This
is more like they took Daredevil and mixed him with the Punisher in a weird way. Like they made him, like they didn't put Punisher in this, but they did, the Hell's Kitchen characters, the street level characters that are in this area of Daredevil's world is Punisher, but they're like, we didn't show Punisher. Well, let's make just Daredevil be Punisher as well.
Yeah, much more so. He's out for justice, but his justice is definitely killing these dudes. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I still stand by the fact that Ben Affleck was a good Daredevil.
I think so too. I told you off the top before we started recording that I actually didn't think this was as bad as people make it out to be, and I don't know why, Paul. Not that I understand why it's bad, but I'm saying in a scale, if you went through, is this time where X-Men, Blade 2, Spider-Man, Daredevil, X2, Hulk, the Punisher, all that came out within a 2-year span of that stuff. This couldn't have been I don't know. I just feel like, is this the DC of current, where people are current, not the James Gunn DC, but the previous iteration of DC stuff, where it's they're making films, people are going to see them because they want to see their comic book characters on screen, but they're not great, but all of us are like, hey, it's what we're gonna get, kind of thing. And I don't know, I just don't understand why. It's not amazing. This is not Iron Man from 2008 for me. I have
to say, I like this movie less now than I did when I saw it.
Okay. Well, which makes sense because at the time you saw it, it was what you had, options. It was your option.
It was what we had.
Yeah.
It did not age well. I feel like this, and it's funny because this looks just like Blade. This looks like if you, there was a bunch of those vampire and werewolf movies and video game movies and all this stuff of that era, and it looks exactly like all the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 02, 03 movies. If somebody was like, "Oh, what was it like back then?" Just put this on. There you go. Spot the soundtrack, which I love the soundtrack, but the soundtrack
is so early 2000s too.
It is, yeah. Everything about this is an epitome of it. It doesn't age well. It shows exactly what time it is. The CGI is sort of over the top and not really.
The fight sequences were good though.
The fight sequences are good. So your over the top villain stuff, why Bullseye had to have this weird imprinted tattoo thing on his forehead.
He's so bad. I'm sorry. That's my least favorite part of this.
He's swinging around in all of his fights was just over the top.
And I want a costume. He just blatantly says, "I want a costume." Daredevil has a costume. I want a costume. No, but Bullseye is the worst part of this movie.
I disagree.
Really?
I disagree. Elektra's the worst part.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I say Elektra's the worst part of the movie. So I personally think I didn't like Jennifer Garner as Elektra when this came out. I felt like she was cast because she was big in Alias.
Mm-hmm.
She was sort of the action hero, female role at the time.
And you could see her with Ben Affleck in real life. If they were to be a couple, you could see them be a couple.
In the
so
world
it makes
of comics, she doesn't look like Elektra.
No.
In the writing, she doesn't act like Elektra.
No.
You can't understand where the line is between she's a tough assassin or she needs to be cuddled. Like it's a
like
weird
damsel in distress versus tough assassin.
Which one are you? Yeah, like because Elektra is badass. She should be the one killing all these people, and Daredevil should be trying to stop her from it. Like that's really would have been a better written storyline for this. Is have Daredevil more in the justice is justice, and Elektra you can't do this, and her seeking revenge against the Kingpin for her father's death, and her out there killing all these guys left and right, would have been a much better, accurately written movie, and then cast better for Elektra because Jennifer Garner wasn't it. And I'm sorry, but the fight scene in the playground in the beginning when they first meet was super goofy, ridiculous, and then her little thing where she like has the kick extended and says her name, and then she gives this weird nod. It is so goofy, like bad action of its time stuff, like bad TV action. Like this shouldn't even been in a movie. This scene looked like something from like an ABC special. Yeah,
I don't understand it. I actually wrote it as one of my notes. It says the fight in the park. I don't understand the fight in the playground park area. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. And immediately,
ridiculous over
how
the
quickly
top.
went to that too. You know what I mean? Like how quickly that happened and how it got to that point. And
she's like,
I don't care who you are, but who the hell fights a blind guy?
She's like, all right, this blind guy, I'm gonna kick his ass.
Yeah, I don't understand that. You're a horrible person. I'll tell you right now, even if a person came up to me and smacked me in the face and they were blind, I'd have a tough time hitting that person back. Dude, let alone going to a martial arts fight and fight this person. And then he's fighting a woman.
And shit.
Not to be sexist or anything, but like he's fighting a woman, so like at the same side, like I don't like just the whole battle just seems odd to me, and that early in the movie. It was fairly early in the movie. It wasn't even that far in the movie.
It was very early. So I feel like the origin story was accurate, and the origin story was well done. It was entertaining. It felt a little long, but overall it was like well enough done.
This is gonna be a weird reference here. Because I want to talk on that. So the origin story makes sense. It's that let's tell a quick synopsis of how Daredevil became blind. That's what it explains. It explains that and how he got his extra abilities. And I like that. I like the whole idea when he first woke up, he heard the dripping of his IV bag and like all that stuff. Like that was cool. I like that. Yes.
He starts being able to see through walls, sort of.
But so I come from my dad is a pastor, right? And I come from a background of growing up in a church, and there's always this thought process that you always see Jesus as the baby in the manger, and then you all of a sudden see him 35. You know what I mean? So like there's this gap between him like at 4 years old or 3 years old to like 35. Right, and the same thing I felt like in this movie, where it was like, yes, you understand how he got his abilities and his power, but it doesn't explain why he became Daredevil and why he fought for justice and where the costume came from and all that stuff. That to me was kind of a frustrating part. Whereas that like all of a sudden
the costume one's a big question because that costume is elaborate.
Yeah, it is. But I'm just saying, like, why all of a sudden did he start wanting to fight crime? Who goes and gets blind? I know he has extra abilities, but I feel like most people in the world, and again, this is maybe what makes Matt Murdock different than everybody else's, and that's why he became a lawyer, is most people in the world will use that for negative things. Like I would use it to rob banks or to, you know.
Well, and that was, I guess that's the side of his dad always trying to push him to be better and like you're going to go to school. And I feel like you could fill in the blanks with the exception of where did this costume come from.
But I feel like isn't that back in the day where they told origin stories though? Like I feel like it's an origin. It's like saying, I don't know. It's like showing Rogue, you know, like in the animated X-Men animated show where she touches people, like or actually it's in the X-Men movie, right, where she touches. They're on the bed kissing or whatever.
Yeah, that's the movie. She kisses her boyfriend there and then sucks.
But all of a sudden it would be like that and seeing that, and then all of a sudden I know her fast forward like 10 years and have her just be part of the X-Men and not explain how she got to the X-Men. That's where I think that's the problem I have is like there could have been a little bit of a fast forward even. Just something like it shows.
I also think we could have gotten a better layout of that it's not just like here's the beginning of the movie with the origin with now like I think more modern movies they do a better job of that, of letting you kind of figure out the origin as you go and kind of dropping it here and there. Yeah. Instead of this longer, because that was probably what a 20-minute sequence or so of getting this whole layout of him and who he is.
Maybe that's why they skipped that middle part, is because they did so long with the origin part that they didn't give the ability to the movie would be too long.
You don't want to write another half hour to him being a angsty teenager jumping around New York City.
But every adaptation of Spider-Man, so the 3 adaptations we've had of Spider-Man's first film, each one of them he makes his own costume and shows how he makes his own costume. You know, like so there's that aspect of finding out why all of a sudden I know where it's like, okay, he got blind, he has all these abilities, now he's a superhero. And I
I
felt
will
like there
say
was
in
a
that
gap
first
in the
Spider-Man
middle.
movie, he makes a giant leap from a hoodie, a
I know,
poorly
it's
done
crazy.
hoodie, to this like immaculate costume.
Spider-Man has always been a really good person behind a sewing machine. We don't know where that came from, but like
Yeah,
obviously
like Aunt May
Daredevil,
must be very
Matt
talented.
Murdock.
He spent a lot of time learning from her.
Matt Murdock did a
Yeah,
great
Matt.
job making his costume
Yeah,
blind.
Matt was on like Temu ordering stuff to combine it and make it something.
Well, I don't understand it because, like, obviously we saw that in the Daredevil TV show, which is a far superior adaptation of Daredevil.
Now, granted, the Daredevil TV show has like hours and hours to build.
Correct, you're right. But I'm saying at least there's that storyline
Yeah.
in there where he gets someone to make his suit for him. It's
Yeah,
this
and he
whole
realizes
thing.
he needs that. He needs to be.
But like,
He needs to be able to intimidate those people, not just be a guy in a black.
I would have been
Yeah.
more okay and less upset with them just showing almost too fast of a reason why he became Daredevil as the superhero than
Right.
just the fact that it's just omitted altogether. And I understand where you're coming from on that. I understand that if you're watching a Daredevil movie, in all likelihood you know a little bit of the story behind it, and so like
Yeah, and I feel like they
can
show
fill
him
the
doing
pieces
his whole.
in.
Because the original comic Daredevil side was he was more of a, like a boxer, wrestler, athlete, and the Daredevil name came from him being like, a daredevil, like always pushing the limits.
Yeah.
So he's doing crazy handstands on rooftops and stuff like that. When he has that, once he gets that ability and he can now like have those extra senses that help him with all this. So
I just
like,
thought it was one of those weird things. I felt like it was too fast.
Yeah, it was.
Obviously, Daredevil came from his dad's nickname of the Devil in this movie. Like they call him the Devil, so like Daredevil has that connection to it.
And then the Devil of Hell's Kitchen
and being the opposite of his dad, really, like trying to do good instead of bad, is kind of like what he's doing. And obviously, but
killing
his
dad
people
always wanted, and his dad just didn't have the means to do so.
But he's also a lawyer who kills people. The whole thing just seems weird.
Yeah, that was an issue. However, one of the coolest lines in any Marvel comic, or cartoon, or movie is him interviewing the guy on the stand and saying, "I hope justice is found today before justice finds you." That is that's killer. That is great. That is all like Daredevil superhero.
Oh,
like, hell yeah, ominous. Like what a great. And that guy's like a sleazeball and gets off on all charges. And like Quesada. Yeah, that was lots of comic name references.
Oh, all kinds of references. So there's Miller, Mac Bendis. There's Quesada. Kevin Smith plays Kirby.
Yep.
Plays a character named Kirby. Stan Lee also makes a cameo in this. I don't know. He
almost walked into traffic there.
Yes, that's what it was. So there's a bunch of that stuff in here, which is really cool. I almost felt like it was almost too much. It was almost felt like I want to make all these references in a Marvel movie. We don't know if we're ever going to be able to do it again. Let's just throw it all in here and see what happens.
Yeah, and if you're not a comic book fan, you don't pick up on.
Well, the Stan Lee cameo was really cool, and then the Kevin Smith cameo was actually really cool too, because Kevin Smith either goes on to or just previously or currently had written Daredevil. Yeah, I don't know if it was just because Kevin Smith's also an actor at the time, and so there was that. That's
right
why
in the timeline that he was doing the writing for Daredevil.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool to see someone who actually wrote that, and then seeing the names Quesada and Bendis and all that stuff was cool homage things. But like again, it almost felt over the top at some points, and also making Quesada out to be a really shitty person.
Right? Yeah. He's just like
I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, Quesada was like running Marvel all the time, so like.
And presumably raped her. Yeah, he's like horrible. Yeah. And then he gets his own. Daredevil gets him. But this, I don't know. The fight scenes are cool.
Yes.
Well done. Boy, I don't know. I don't know about this movie though. Like in the grand scheme of things, watching it now, I guess all the things that I kind of was able to write off in the past.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, at least we get a Daredevil movie, are a lot harder to write off now, especially with having seen the new Daredevil series and stuff that came out through Netflix and everything else and the MCU's growth. This stands out for being a lot worse, I think, than it was at its time.
The hardcover collection of Smith's run on Daredevil actually came out in April of 2003, so it was just before this that he was actually. So when you're filming this, they were actually probably currently writing Daredevil,
right?
Which is kind of cool. Ben Urich, to me, was hilarious because all I could think of was Matrix. When I'm watching this again, I'm just thinking to myself like, this is the guys from Matrix. It's like anytime Harry Potter was his name. The guy who plays Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, Daniel Radcliffe is.
Yeah, you're always like, oh shit, it's Harry Potter. It's just Harry Potter and these things. So I thought that was kind of funny on that stuff. Coolio.
So
Coolio the rapper was the dude that Matt Murdock was trying to get off. It was his client, the
Right.
black. It was Coolio the rapper, which was obviously timely because of
So
obviously.
it was
Coolio
interesting to
popular.
find out. I read about this that there's actually an R-rated version of this. It's a director's cut.
Yes.
That goes much deeper into the Coolio story.
Yes.
And that the comic fans, I guess, gave this movie much higher ratings if you have the R-rated director cut storyline.
Yes.
Because I
I'd
obviously never seen that. So I just watched the theatrical version again.
Yeah.
So like that's pretty interesting. But it was funny to cut out. That must have been a pretty decent sized cut to remove that whole plot line with him. And you just had, I'm like, how much did you spend on Coolio to be like, we're gonna cut out basically all of it?
Well, I wonder if those kind of things where it's like, hey, Coolio, we have this thing. He's like, I want to be in a movie.
Right, I want to be in a superhero movie. Possible.
Nova watches stuff on Disney Plus called Cars on the Road, which is the Cars movie, but like it's a TV show, and they go on a road trip. Him and Lightning McQueen and Mater. And one of the episodes is they like drive by a B movie being filmed. And they're like, hey, you're Lightning McQueen, and we should get you in the movie. And he's like, yeah, that'd be awesome. He's all excited for it. So all I could picture is some stars you see randomly in movies are like, cover my hotel, throw me a couple $1,000 and I'll be in a movie just to be in a movie. So like, Coolio,
I just want to be in the movie.
Coolio's not being cast for a bunch of things at the time.
Well,
so my guess is that like,
if they came to us and said, hey, do you guys want to be in the next Marvel movie? Yeah, we're going to be in the Marvel movie.
I'd be like, cool. I'll pay for my own hotel if you put me in the Marvel movie. There's probably like legally they have to pay you something, but I'm just saying like, I'm guessing it wasn't millions of dollars to get Coolio into the movie. It was probably just like, hey, we'll put you in a movie. It's a Marvel movie and so on and so forth. Which I mean, at the time, Marvel movies weren't this thing. It wasn't like, I mean, I guess
really
X-Men was pretty successful.
Big, but
this was successful in the theaters. Like the first weekend, it was the #1 movie.
And didn't it hold on for the second week? It dropped 55%, but it held. Yeah, I saw 55%.
It was second to second biggest February release to Hannibal at the time. It fell the following week 55%. Oh, it's renamed #1 because Old School only made 700,000 or 639,000.
I hate to say this, we may have gone on Valentine's Day to this movie.
Hey man,
it's possible.
It's a foreshadowing to the fact that you own a comic book store later on in your life.
Apparently. Well, look, see, here we are.
Big thing for me, which is also a funny thing, an ironic thing, a weird thing, is the fact that Foggy Nelson was played by Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau, the one and only director of Iron Man, who goes on to play Happy Hogan in the MCU, which is pretty funny. I don't know. I kind of liked him as Foggy. I think Foggy. He had that comedy Foggy, that
the comedy side of it, and like the legit like being friends but like trying to run a business together side of it. Matt's like, oh, we get paid in fish because this guy fishes and he's broke and that's what you do. And he's like, yeah, but how about we get paid in money?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if it's a sleazy person, Matt. Like, that's what we went to law school for.
Yep.
Yeah. Like,
I think it was great. I think it was some fun. I think it was funny when he's like sitting there waiting for Matt to finish at the party, and he's just rubbing.
Swapping the honey with the mustard after Matt says something about.
But he's sitting there at the party and he's rubbing the tit of the gargoyle thing, and someone walks by and is like, "What are you doing?" And he looks at it, he's like, "Oh, oops." I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if that did. I watched the director's cut, so that might have been.
I don't think that was in the director's cut. No,
but he was just like
now I have to go commit 2 more hours to this and watch the director's cut of it.
And he's sitting there just rubbing, like he's just like almost like he was like just like holding onto a banister, and he's just rubbing it. But they look down, and it's literally like a gargoyle sitting there, kind of like lion thing, and it has these tits, and he's just holding onto it. And someone's walking up the stairs, they're like looking at him, and he's just like, "What?" And he looks down, and he goes, "Oh shit."
Yeah, that was not in the regular.
Okay, so the director's cut is probably way better, and I honestly think it actually got a higher rating in general on the director's cut, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw the director's cut had a much better overall review than.
But even in the scale of the movies that we've watched over these big random movies we've watched over the past couple of years, you and I, Rotten Tomatoes score on this one is not, like I said, not horrendous. It's 43% critic rating. Okay. Yeah. Which is obviously not good, but like in the scale of things, we watched 4%, 5%, 10% things. 35% fans, and I think the fans one is probably, again, this is the theatrical cut, I'm guessing. It's more along the lines of things like you had already mentioned, of being a fan of the comic books compared to watching the movie. And it got a 5.3 on IMDb, the bigger websites that rate these movies. And so that's not horrible. It made $179 million on a $78 million budget.
Yeah, it made money.
You know what I mean? It had the stars in it. It had the weird thing is the writer
sweet Frank Miller cover Daredevil shirt at Hot Topic because of this movie.
So Daredevil, it also kind of makes sense to me, like the comic book movies they made in this era, if you think about it, outside of like maybe Hulk, but are all street level style thing. I mean, think about it, because the X-Men are still kind of street level in a sense, because at the time,
yeah, and it was
local,
you know what,
it was New York.
It's much easier, I think, to do a street level story because then you don't have to worry at that point if the special effects weren't up to trying to do the powers and stuff. You didn't have to worry about it
because it's
which it shows in that Hulk movie, because the Hulk in the Hulk movie looks like a cartoon on screen.
Yeah.
Like, it did not work out. It looks like you're watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like laid over a cartoon with regular people. Like the effects apparently were not quite there. Versus this looks overall decent. Like it looks pretty good. All right, let's see. Michael Clarke Duncan as Kingpin,
which is groundbreaking in a sense that they actually went with a black Kingpin
instead of a white actor.
Yeah, but on the same sense, I don't think you needed to. Also, I
think for going for the size of Kingpin,
yes,
the intimidation of him and his size, I don't know if you could have cast much better at that point.
No, you couldn't. Yes,
for that.
And I like Michael Clarke Duncan.
I do agree reading that the Kingpin character in this movie was really sort of over the top.
Yeah,
like they sort of went a little far, and then in the grand scheme of him being a bad guy, doesn't really do that much.
No.
Single-handedly he doesn't really.
But isn't he supposed to be more of a mob boss anyway? So it's more of a he imposes the fear and have other people do it.
He calls hits on people. Yeah. So ultimately he's the one responsible for all of these horrible things happening.
Yeah.
But in the to actually see stuff, he doesn't really do anything. Versus in like the Daredevil TV series where like the Kingpin in that is like, I'm gonna get my hands dirty and we'll like beat someone to death if they turn on him.
Yeah.
Or if they don't do what he orders or what have you. Like it gives you, I think, a much more intimidating side of it than in this movie where you don't really get much of him doing a whole lot until the final fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
Which also, like, 2 final fight scenes was kind of a bit. You get the whole Bullseye, you get the whole Kingpin, you get...
Yeah.
But it kind of almost had a little too much going on in it.
Was that the fault of early Marvel in the first place anyway, is trying to throw too many villains into a movie at the same time?
I think somewhat, yeah. And I think it's still a fault. I think ultimately your to me, your math in a movie is usually better if you're doing a one-on-one scenario.
Yeah.
You start adding too many other elements and it just gets too much and it gets too lost and it gets with the casting, we don't like the casting of Jennifer Garner as Elektra in the first place. It probably would have been better to do maybe like a Ben Affleck Daredevil versus Kingpin or versus Colin Farrell as Bullseye in the first movie. And then instead of making Elektra the second movie, or you could have made Elektra the second movie and actually featured Daredevil in that movie and been in like a 2-part movie where you had like one villain, or like a villain for Ben Affleck to fight in there, which maybe said Bullseye. And then there's like what I love about the Marvel, at least phase 1 of Marvel Cinematic Universe, was the fact that there was like each movie had their own villain, but then there was no overarching villain. Like there's multiple villains you can fight at the same time, and that's the world of comic books. There's if you can build it better rather than having to wrap everything up in one movie.
Correct. So like I feel like they put everything in here, being like we're gonna be able to do this once. Yeah. If we don't put in Elektra in this, people are gonna be pissed because it's a Daredevil movie that doesn't feature Elektra or Kingpin or whatever.
Oh, the Elektra side of it too, of like, I feel like she was there because we have to have a romance side, and rather than doing like the Page side, in the Matt Murdock side, instead we do the Daredevil Elektra because, I mean, that's the Frank Miller big story arc, but it just didn't come off right at all.
And Elektra being the worst character,
was weird. The like action stuff with Elektra, like just none of the Elektra side worked for me.
The Elektra being in there, like I said, it added another whole twist. And then Elektra being the worst character in this movie, getting a sequel that is just her, doesn't make really much sense.
I can kind of proudly say that I own and proudly say that I haven't watched. I don't know, those two kind of go. I have to own this.
I never saw it either.
Collection, so I bought it, but I've never watched it.
I've never seen it, and I went to think about it. And I was like, oh, what's that? It came out 2 years later, and the fact that Daredevil and Matt Murdock or Ben Affleck is not in it.
Not in it.
So it's a weird thing. It's like a sequel, but not a sequel of the character that people probably like the least
I don't
about
even
this
remember
movie.
if that is that a sequel or an origin. Is this her post all this, or was this her how she got all of her martial arts stuff in the first place?
I think it's like it's her fighting the Hand.
Where do they?
But so it says the story follows Elektra as an assassin who is protected by a man and his prodigy daughter from an assassin to hire the Hand. After being killed, Elektra Natchios is revived by the martial arts master Stick.
So this gets Stick in here.
Yeah.
Weird.
It doesn't say. I thought usually in like at least Wikipedia and stuff they like as a commercial.
Piece of me says we should watch that someday, but another piece of me like is happy that I've never seen it.
So here's the thing. It received negative reviews from critics who found the script and storyline lacking, but many praised Garner's performance. She then reprised her role as Elektra in the 2024 film Deadpool and Wolverine.
Deadpool.
That's correct.
It's funny because my wife and I were talking about this morning. Liz goes, and it makes sense for Jennifer Garner's role now. She's like, I don't understand why they ever cast her. Jennifer Garner is always a mom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, back then she was the action Alias girl.
Yep. Yep.
And Liz is like, oh, I sort of forgot about that because Jennifer Garner now is so many movies and stuff that she comes out in is like the mom character.
And Jennifer Garner alias, not alias as in like Brian Michael Bendis alias. You're talking alias these, yeah. Which is also kind of confusing at the time that came out. But
it's not like the other.
I don't know, maybe. But I think the success of X-Men and the fact that next year they put out X2, you'd think that the Daredevil movie was put into effect and put into motion, knowing they probably would do a second movie of some sort, and it was a financial success. It made over double its budget. So like,
I'm surprised with the success financially of it that there wasn't a sequel or a Defenders movie that came from this. Something, but Ben Affleck, I read a quote that said he hated this movie.
Yeah, I don't blame him in that sense. Like, I feel like
this is actually why he went on to do the Batman role because he wants a superhero movie. Which I'm sorry, Ben, the Batman movies you were in weren't good either. And I also think Ben Affleck has been great as Daredevil. I think he was great as Batman. I just think the movies he were in were terrible.
So he does show up in the director's cut of Elektra. It says right here on his Wikipedia. He's not in the actual movie, but he's in the director's cut only.
Oh God, I'm just gonna watch the director.
But listen to this. So the next year he went on. So later on that year he did Paycheck, which was really good. I don't know if you've ever seen Paycheck. Paycheck's phenomenal.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
He did in 2024. He did Surviving Christmas. Okay.
I feel like I watched that, but I don't remember that much.
Kevin Smith's Jersey
Rent
Girl.
a Family. Is that what that one was? He's like rich and shows these people's doorstep.
I don't remember.
I can't remember. I think it was something like that.
Jersey Girl he did the same year with which was a Kevin Smith's movie.
Yeah, that was a sad.
And then there was Elektra, and then A Man About Town, Clerks 2, Hollywoodland, Smoking Aces. So it wasn't even like he was doing humongous things at the time.
It seemed like he was doing a lot of movies that maybe he wanted to do. Like this was he wanted to do it, and then some of those other movies are more, I don't want to say artsy, but a lot of them are sort of like lean towards that, and it's like the stuff that he wants to do. He was not doing a movie to make a paycheck. It was doing a movie because it's what he wanted.
But he does a good job of playing Matt Murdock. He does a good job of playing a blind person. I think that I think
this was one of the first, it's maybe the first superhero movie that you see that like he has a toll taken on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like they show him when he first comes in, he takes the coat off and he's got scars all down his back and he's getting in the shower and he pulls a tooth out. I feel like up until this, like Michael Keaton's Batman never gets hurt. Mm-hmm. Like growing up watching those, like he's always fine. He's great. He beats the crap out of everybody and their brother. Like nothing ever. There's never a toll. He's not even sweaty really.
No.
Like in this, like Matt Murdock is exhausted. He's beat up. His girlfriends keep leaving him. Like he comes in, he hits the answering machine, and this girl's like, I think this is the end of it. This is really all you are, Matt. And I don't know what you want, but I hope you find it. And like this guy's life kind of sucks. Like it sucks. And this was, I think, really the first superhero movie I can think of that showed that.
Yeah.
That it isn't glorious. This isn't like Superman and everything's great and you get the girl and you look handsome and your suit's clean. Like this is
Marvel.
Life.
This is true Marvel. This is Marvel saying that not all superheroes have like perfect lives. There's problems outside of being a superhero and fighting villains and things like that.
I think that was a side of it I always liked about this movie.
I mean, outside, I mean, they do
doing
tint his
that.
hair red a little bit. I don't know if you noticed that. His hair is a
Really?
little bit more red. When he's young, the hair is like bright red. I don't
Yeah,
understand that. Like
yeah.
they dyed his hair so bright red, um,
So in
but with a
case you
hint
don't
of brown.
realize that he's going to become Daredevil,
And I don't
if
know
you
if it's just
forget
because of
which kid
this
it was.
the four color processing of comic books back when Daredevil was introduced into the Marvel pantheon, but like his hair was red then, more red, and then it slowly morphed its way into brown hair now in most
Right.
comics now. But outside the hair color of early Matt Murdock, he does look like Matt Murdock. I mean, like not like
Yeah.
he's got the chiseled chin, a fit body, like
Yep.
he's in shape. Which is a juxtaposition of now a Foggy Nelson, obviously in that sense too. That like
Yeah.
Matt Murdock is definitely way more
Yeah.
attractive
Yeah.
of a
They're
male.
like the odd couple or the twins from Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito.
But on an
Yep.
overall casting thing, if you look back at it, it's like they could have done way worse. And they've made
Oh, 100%.
Charlie Cox's Daredevil, Matt Murdock. He's a little bit more nerdy and a little bit more smaller framed, a little bit more. He's still in shape, but he's more petite in that sense than the original
Yeah.
Matt Murdock, which is fine because I like the idea of looking at this guy being like he's blind, and he's slightly smaller. Why would he be a superhero kind of thing? It kind of
Right.
adds that balance. But Matt Murdock as a whole, played by Ben Affleck, on it to me was way more on point than him playing Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I like his Batman. He plays a little bit of an older Batman.
Yeah.
So I like that, but I agree. I thought he was a great Daredevil. I would have loved to have seen a better done movie with him as Daredevil. Something that wasn't, I don't know, a little too action hokey and a little too just a little too much of everything, really. But yeah, I thought Ben Affleck was fantastic in it. Definitely the best casting of all, because Colin Farrell's Bullseye was kind of goofy.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it was Colin Farrell's fault. Like the writing of his character and all that, he's just sort of goofy.
Do you know what's funny about it is like
the world's greatest like assassin. He comes across as just kind of an idiot.
yes.
Like just kind of
The Michael Clarke Duncan of it all. I'm kind of glad that he went that route and didn't do Vincent D'Onofrio because we got the Vincent D'Onofrio to be in the good stuff later on.
Right.
But he could have. It was 2 years into Law and Order. He wasn't doing anything but Law and Order, so he didn't film a movie in those years
Right.
of Daredevil. Obviously, they make Vincent D'Onofrio a bigger feeling in the new Marvel stuff than he actually is. Like he is a bigger dude, but he's not as big as they make him out to look
Right.
in the movies.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of.
They definitely angle cameras in certain ways and
Make him look
push
taller,
people back.
add
They make him
some
look bigger and stuff like
padding.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they definitely make him look bigger. But I think he's phenomenal as Kingpin in that
Agreed.
sense of like having that thing. Taylor, my wife's favorite Kingpin is still from Spider-Verse. Kingpin. She still thinks Kingpin.
Oh
and
yeah, no, the
is
Spider-Verse
amazing.
Kingpin was very good.
But
Yep, I agree with
but I
that.
just think yeah, but Bullseye to me, it's Elektra. Yes, Elektra is the worst character in this movie. Bullseye is
Right behind
right
her.
behind that.
Yeah.
And the fact that like just I don't know, I just feel like they could have easily done. They felt like they didn't want to give him a costume at the beginning, even though I felt like it would have been more fitting to actually have the Bullseye costume on him. But like I don't know.
Bullseye costume would have honestly, a more comic accurate Bullseye costume would have looked better than what we got.
Yes.
Which is not always the case. Like sometimes the costumes are too much when you put them on screen and they're goofy and you change them, and that's your whole X-Men side of it where they all have like the black leather jumpsuit stuff.
Yeah.
But the weird imprinted Bullseye symbol on his forehead and the weird black spiky leather trench coat thing and like all of that just looks bad.
Mm-hmm.
So bad that it would have been better if he showed up as an average, normal looking dude that is killing people. And then he's like, I want a costume because I'm fighting him. And, you know, he has this ego, this weird, larger than life ego. So Kingpin's like, fine, get a costume. I don't care. And have him run around in the black suit with the Bullseye symbol on his forehead and have that. Like,
but if you just walked around without the suit on, if he's walking down the street without the suit on, you'd go, that's a bad guy. But Bullseye without the suit on and a regular person who walks down the street, you'd be like, that's a regular guy. And so the fact of the matter is like he is permanently in his costume with the Bullseye thing on his head and the way he dresses and all the earrings and all the stuff. Like immediately people will judge him for being a bad person. Like I don't understand. Like even Kingpin isn't like that.
He looks like the thug, hangs out at the bar, doing all this stuff. It's just exactly what they portrayed him in the movie as. That, that's his stuff. He's always doing something he shouldn't be, and this and that. And it was not, the Bullseye character was just not well done.
No, and I think it's ruined Bullseye for, honestly, in movies and in TV and in things, it's ruined Bullseye for the future. Like, I feel like they were so apprehensive of putting,
we won't get it. This might be a good chance to bring him back and do it right.
No, and I think we will. And I think it will be something that's a character. I mean, it's a very, 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 very iconic Daredevil villain. It's not like they're not going to bring it back.
And, I mean,
but my point is, like, when they did that, they're like
Spider-Man and all these more like ground level sort of characters that, like, Bullseye is one that goes through multiple heroes, and he's a dangerous villain, like, but not the Colin Farrell version.
No. Oh, Colin Farrell, and I love Colin Farrell. That's the problem. Colin Farrell is great.
Didn't like SWAT come out around this time, and like he was great in that, and like he was doing a lot of good things recently.
Yeah,
and then there was this.
Did you notice?
I think a lot of people in this movie would probably like to get this movie back. Like, maybe not.
Well, that's the thing is, so at the time, I'm trying to think back at the time. It's like it fell.
At the time, it hit its marks for what it.
It was. I mean,
at the time,
critically received. Hulk was critically received better than this movie, and I
disagree with that.
Disagree with that. It was the Hulk was fan wise was received worse than this. So there is that. You know, there's always that
balance between that.
But X-Men, X2, Spider-Man, this. Blade, Hulk, all came out around the same time, and I'm trying to think of, like, they all weren't amazing. They were all the beginnings of what Marvel was trying to do in the early 2000s with movies.
Honestly, the best one of all of those movies is probably Blade.
And Blade was 2 years prior to.
For having the least issues in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Like the one that Blade, I remember, was
forgot about
like
the
some
most.
Of the stuff where some of the vampires die when he hits them and some don't, which doesn't always make sense. And then there was like the end scene, the like big vampire explodes and he just goes like that, and there's like nothing on him, but there's blood and crap all over the walls. Like, kind of goofy. Like, I don't know, Wesley Snipes is probably like, yeah, you're not covering me in that stuff. But like overall, the Blade movie holds up better than the whole rest of them. Like the Spider-Man one, I still have a lot of problems with that Spider-Man movie, and that's like an iconic movie.
Okay. While you're talking, I was thinking about this. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to talk about. One is, so think about the early 2000s in Marvel movies, up until Iron Man came out. Okay, this is your movies. You have Blade in 98. Again, pretty good movie. I like that movie. I like the beginning of what they say. I wish they would give Wesley Snipes more. I honestly think they should just reboot it now and put Wesley Snipes as Blade. X-Men, Blade 2, Spider-Man, Daredevil, X2, Hulk, like I mentioned. Then The Punisher came out. Okay.
Yep, I'm saying.
Spider-Man 2, Blade Trinity. Okay. Elektra, then the Fantastic Four movie from 2005, The Last Stand from X-Men, and then Ghost Rider, Spider-Man 3, and Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Those were our movies for Marvel before the MCU. And literally all of them are not great. Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man, okay. I'll take it.
I had my issues, but Yep.
I'll take it. The Blade trilogy, again, take it. X-Men for what it was, and for really, I mean, Blade didn't kick it off. X-Men kicked it off, really. I know Blade came out 2 years prior, but X-Men was what put Marvel movies in the limelight. And so I'll take it for that,
was your
for what it is.
Movie.
For what it is, yes.
Yeah.
And then Iron Man came out, Incredible Hulk, so on and so forth. So it was really kind of cool to see where it went from there. Did you know that prior to writing this movie, Mark Steven Johnson, the writer and director of this movie, Daredevil, wrote Grumpy Old Men and Grumpier Old Men. The Jack Frost movie with Michael Keaton. I don't know if you ever saw that Christmas movie where he dies and becomes a snowman.
Yeah,
I like that movie. I think it's cute. I think it's like a classic Christmas movie in my opinion.
It's weird.
Do you know the next Marvel movie this guy went on to write? Ghost Rider.
Yeah, that adds up.
Like, what are they doing? What are they doing giving him another movie? No wonder Ghost Rider turned out like shit. It's because he wrote and directed it.
Jeez.
It made more money though. It made $228 million.
Why? Why did that? I don't understand that movie.
Even Mendes probably.
Here the defended. I had people come in there like, oh, Nicolas Cage was great, and I was like,
oh no, I love Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is got a soft spot in my heart. But guess what? One of his worst movies he's ever made is Ghost Rider.
100%.
So I'll tell you that right now. He wasn't allowed to play his own character in that. Like he played his own character in a sense because it was him. But like, I don't know. He was playing a intellectual property, so it's harder to be Nicolas Cage.
Even being intellectual property, casting side of it. Nicolas Cage may want to be in a superhero movie. Terrific. He's not Johnny Blaze. He's not Ghost Rider.
No.
He was weird. He didn't look right. No.
So yeah, this guy wrote.
Yeah, that adds up. He said,
Grumpy Old Man, a movie called Big Bully.
How do we get those?
Simon Birch. I don't know what that is. It looks like a drama with, I don't know who that is. Ashley Judd, it looks like. Jim Carrey.
How do we get those movies and then be like, yeah, why don't you write Daredevil for us?
So yeah, and then he went on to the next movie he wrote altogether. So he made Daredevil, had 4 years off from writing and directing movies. 5 years off, and wrote and directed Ghost Rider. The next movie they gave him in the world of movie writing and directing was Ghost Rider. Then he killed that. 3 years later, he wrote a movie, and then he went on to write Grudge Match with Stallone and De Niro.
Hey, all right, am I having a fever dream? Is there a sequel to Ghost Rider, or is that only one?
Yes. Yeah, it's Ghost Rider.
Two, right?
Spirit of Vengeance, which is funny because it was directed by Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, but screenplay was by David S. Goyer, who wrote the Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh wow!
And Scott M. Gimple, who writes and produces The Walking Dead.
I can tell you, I disliked the first movie, the Ghost Rider. I disliked so much, I never watched the sequel.
No, and it's bad. It's really bad. But the guy who wrote it.
I think I watched Ghost Rider once.
The guy who wrote Ghost Rider 2, Spirit of Vengeance, wrote Blade 2, wrote Blade Trilogy, Batman Begins, Batman Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Terminator Dark Fate, Hellraiser.
He just struck out apparently on that one.
Well, I mean, some of those I mentioned aren't that good either, though. So like,
the third Blade movie leaves some to be desired.
Listen, we got Brian Reynolds in the third Blade movie.
We did. We got Ryan Reynolds. We got Triple H.
There you go. Yeah. So overall, I told you at the outset before we started recording that I don't think this movie it doesn't deserve to be in the, like, if you take all of the Marvel movies, I'm talking about the ones that were direct for movie for TV, the Shield one, the Nick Fury,
all the stuff
Shield
we've
one,
watched,
all the stuff we've watched, so that it's not to me.
I will tell you what,
I will bottom watch, 5.
No, I would watch this over Man Thing.
Yeah,
100%.
Man Thing, the Nick Fury movie,
the Nick Fury
all
movie.
those movies.
Yeah, like
if you took all of them, I don't think this would even be in the bottom 5. I mean, to me,
I would watch this over Ghost Rider.
I put 2 stars down. Okay. And I think mainly because I think I put, again, when I go to rate these movies, I almost want to rate them like I was watching them like you did when you went to the theaters for it. Yeah. Because I want to watch them. It was made in the time frame. I can't blame it for 22 years later.
I can't rate it that. If I do, I'm going to give it way too high.
No, just because you got a little something extra afterwards. Don't want to. But no, the idea that I can't blame it for 22 years later for doing what it did then. Do you know what I mean? Hindsight is 2020
because of its time. It's hard to say. Yeah, because I mean, really, we gave the Doctor Strange movie an awful lot of like, well, for its time, it's what they could do.
Well, so here's what you could almost do, Paul. You can almost say at the time I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and right now I give it 1 out of 5 stars. So that means you give it like a 3 out of 5, or 2.5 out of 5. You know,
I would say I would be at 2.5 now, and I'm sure at the time I was probably a 4. Yeah. I had problems with it, but I was all in. I was about it. I was really hoping to see Ben Affleck back as Daredevil again. Yeah. So yeah, I think 2.5 is probably where I'd put it now. It's not the worst thing you could watch if you want to watch it. If you're looking for a movie of its like time and era, that's definitely right up there for it. But
to me, it's like, I guess
definitely not going to say this is a must see.
No, but when we talked about Swamp Thing, it's like if you want to go back and watch Swamp Thing to watch the movie, the TV show that came out on HBO Max recently, because that's better adaptation of it. If you want to watch Daredevil, watch the Netflix Daredevil seasons. Yeah. And then potentially watch the one that's coming out, or watch the one that's coming out right now. The next one,
if it's good, because we'll find out.
If you want to watch the specific things, like if you want to watch the X-Men, watch the animated cartoon, X-Men.
Watch X-92.
Those are the kind of things, I always like to say to people. Like, I like the Dark Knight trilogy, so if you want to watch Batman stuff, watch that. Like, that kind of stuff to me, like, there is a thing, and this is not one of those ones that if you want to learn about Daredevil, do not watch this. Read Brian Michael Bendis' stuff. Read Kevin Smith stuff. Read obviously
Frank
Mark Miller
Miller's
stuff.
Frank Miller's Frank Miller's a little dated, but it's still some of the best Daredevil work.
I said Mark Miller because I just read the prose novel of
go read the original Daredevil stuff that I read where he like fights Stiltman.
Yeah. See?
Daredevil Stiltman fight is
call out. I'm gonna call out a little shout out here.
Fun, and I loved it.
David Harper from the Off Panel podcast and Sketch.com. His favorite character in all of comic books is Stiltman.
Dude, I respect that. I get that. I have a Stiltman figure in my personal collection on my shelf.
He's waiting for the rights to be somewhere and have someone make a movie that has Stiltman in it.
Stiltman. I don't know why I like Stiltman, but I get it. Like in the Daredevil, because I went back and I read Daredevil starting with Daredevil #1, the old Silver Age stuff. And I don't know, it's just fun. The imagery, the art, the stuff they do with Stiltman where he's so tall, he's like almost standing over like New York City. And there's Daredevil swinging around his legs, like trying to get up to fight him. And he's got this ray gun. And like, it is ridiculous. It is so weird. It makes no sense. But something about the image of Stiltman is like, if you want to see comics at its comicness, there you are. Yep. You want to see your weird, goofy, like stuff, there's Stiltman.
Do we get Stiltman in Daredevil Born Again? Coming up here on Disney Plus? Is that what we're going to...
Well, I kind of hope not. I don't know. Frogman was kind of fun. When they had the Frogman in She-Hulk. Yeah. Because that's another great Daredevil, like, weird, goofy villain of, like, an idiot in a frog suit. Like...
Yep.
Here he goes. You know, Daredevil
his biggest thing about Stiltman, too, is not like this one guy in the history of Marvel Comics has been Stiltman. There's been multiple people after the guy who originally was Stiltman to be like, I think this is a good idea to be the person on these stilts. Like, that's his biggest fun thing about it is, like, there's, like, literally... It's not like Iron Man passes his suit down. Like, this is literally like guys like, oh, these stilts. I'm going to wear these stilts now and be Stiltman. Like, it's been passed on to other people. Yes.
Yeah, people find the suit and they're like, all right, I can be a superhero. Good. I'm going to wear this frog suit. I can jump abnormally higher. That's basically it. And I have like I think he also has a ray gun of some kind. Yep. And I think I got this now. I am going to be a world-class criminal in a suit that looks like a frog. Yep.
So one of the reasons we watched this movie for this time, Paul, was not because it's 22nd anniversary of the film, because it comes out right around this time.
That's not to honor that.
Years ago. No, we will be doing one later on this year. I think I have an idea of doing a 40th anniversary of something, which would be kind of cool. But was because Daredevil Born Again comes out on Disney Plus on March 4th, 2025, which is really cool. So we just thought, hey, let's watch the first big screen or screen adaptation of Daredevil.
Off Daredevil
to what it is now. It's really cool. If you did watch the Netflix series, they are bringing back some of those characters, which is really cool. Obviously, you watch some of the other stuff like Echo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some of those characters like Vincent D'Onofrio and so on and so forth are coming back, who's also in Hawkeye.
Yeah, you get him in Hawkeye. Well. He was great in Hawkeye.
But like Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock coming back, Vincent D'Onofrio. You have Deborah Ann Woll, who comes back as Karen Page. Our boy from Mighty Ducks, Eldon Henson, comes back as Foggy Nelson, which is really cool. I want to see him have
a hockey stick once in the show. Just have him once. Just have him like, go like he's going to have a slap shot, like a kid's out playing street hockey, and then it's like, hand stick back.
Just Frank Castle on it. John Bernthal, Walking Dead fame, but also a great adaptation of The Punisher.
We'll discuss that a different day.
Oh, really? Yes. And then, so there's some other people in there.
I think we did discuss this already when we did the original Dolph Lundgren Punisher.
Yeah, that you don't like the new one? You don't like him as
I don't like him as Punisher.
Okay. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm excited for this. It's a 9-episode season. They've already planned for a second season before this even hits screens, but I don't think they're going to have a problem. This may be, and I'm going to put it right down here, it may be the best and the most well-received MCU TV show to date once this releases. I'll tell you that right now. I just feel like they put so much effort into it, and if they can even pull a smallest amount of what they did for Netflix into this, I think that those people who love the Netflix series are going to actually love this, and it's one of the highest rated Marvel Netflix series there ever was.
You got to think, actually, and I don't think people give him that enough credit, but Charlie Cox is almost as much Daredevil as Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Like when you go and Chris Evans is Captain America. I think it gets forgotten because he did the Netflix series, and then he did the original Netflix had 2 seasons, right?
3 seasons.
Okay, so we had 3 seasons as Daredevil. Then he was in Defenders.
Yep. And
Then
he showed up in a couple of the other ones. So
shows up over here. He shows up in She-Hulk, and now he's getting another one. Like, he is Daredevil a lot.
Yes.
Like,
I put him on the same level, and a weird thing, even though I put him on the same level as Grant Gustin as the Flash in the DC universe, where he was on like the Flash was on for like 17,000 seasons, and a lot of people in the world of DC Comics, TV, movies, whatever, their mind they see Grant Gustin as Flash. They don't see him as there's the TV, there's obviously the ones that are in the movies. What's his face? Fucking crazy kid.
Grant Gustin is definitely the best Flash that they've
so
had.
Barry Allen is like people see him as that.
Yeah,
so I think the same thing nowadays. I feel like in the same sense of in the MCU having Charlie Cox play Matt Murdock / Daredevil, it's in that same vein. And I think that they have been so smart that when they're like, oh, we're gonna do Daredevil thing, is to bring a lot of the same people back and just be like, okay, whether it's canon or not, whatever you want to do. I don't even know the confusion. Hopefully they touch on that and they figure out whether or not the show is canon.
What connects where?
But even if it isn't,
this is not connected.
Even if it doesn't, I don't care. That doesn't mean you can't cast the same people. We've already stupidly in the Marvel world cast other people who have played other characters in other movies as same people. Like, you know, Josh Brolin plays Thanos, but also plays Cable. So there's that, and now they're all in the same universe or in the same ownership now, and so now they're like, okay, crap, we did this thing. I mean, when Ryan Reynolds has played like 3 different characters, I say 2 different versions of Deadpool. So it's like, I don't care. I love the fact that Charlie Cox was really good at it. Deborah Ann Woll was great at it. Now Foggy was great. Vincent D'Onofrio was great.
I think the Daredevil, the Netflix Daredevil era stuff is the best adaptation of Daredevil we've had so far, by far.
And if you don't see someone from
all
Netflix,
of the casting is terrific.
If you don't see someone from the Netflix Defenders world coming over to MCU, it's because either they sucked and they cast horribly, like Iron Fist, or they couldn't come to a contract agreement. That's the only way I see it happening now. That they don't recast, because I don't feel like, I mean, Jessica Jones was great.
Jessica Jones is awesome. I think Jessica Jones is my favorite Marvel. Like,
oh my god, dude, so
good.
Best villain,
Kilgrave,
all of Marvel. Huge Thanos fan. But what's his face? Doctor Who.
The Purple Man. David. Purple Man. Shoot. Yep. Man, we don't even film these at night anymore. Like, we're not even drinking, and we don't remember.
Who is it? People are gonna be pissed at us.
People are gonna be mad at us. Yeah.
Kilgrave is played by David Tennant.
David Tennant. There you go. Whew. Yeah, the Purple Man. He's
sorry, people.
You know, I mean, if you really want to get down to it, the Purple Man could have just solved the Thanos problem.
Yeah.
You'd be like, snap your fingers and kill yourself, and Thanos would be like, okay, done.
And that would have been a whole tough thing.
And the movie's over.
But no, that would have been also a cool, tough thing to talk about, using another villain to help kill another villain, like the whole Suicide Squad thing, or Creature Commandos on the DC side of things, where it's like, or Thunderbolts in the Marvel.
Well, in the Civil War comic series, when Cap enlists villains and the Punisher kills all of them. And,
oh my god! I was just saying. I was thinking Mark Miller was on my mind because Mark Miller was on my mind because of I just finished reading the prose novel of the Civil War comic books. It was an adaptation by Stuart Moore, and I laughed because as that came up to it, it was like people were like, "Oh, Daredevil, Punisher, you just fucking kill someone." You're like, "Oh, no, that's not gonna work, guys."
Yeah,
and we're gonna get there with Thunderbolts coming up here pretty soon.
I don't know what to tell you. That's what he does. Like, maybe you shouldn't have enlisted Frank. Maybe you probably should just left Frank outside the clubhouse, because that's what you get.
But I think that's 2.5 stars for this movie is probably worth it. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's horrible. There honestly, I will tell you, there's probably some movies in the MCU that I'd rather not watch compared to watching parts of this movie, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And so I think that says a lot. Next up on the docket for us, dude, is Superman the movie. Which I was pretty excited about, because again, another one of those ones that the reason why they didn't make a lot of Superman stuff was the fact that, how would we make him fly? Did a great job in this movie with that. So I think we're going to be doing it. It's also funny that they changed the name of the new Superman movie coming out for James Gunn's universe. It was originally going to be called Superman Legacy, and is now just called Superman, because someone pointed out to me that there's never been a movie called just Superman.
Oh, because this
the
is
first
Superman,
movie
Man of
technically
Steel, right?
no, this movie technically is called Superman: the movie. That's the actual name of the movie.
Oh, Superman the movie. Okay.
And so
gotcha.
this movie calling this just Superman, they figured it out in DC like, well, they never called anything Superman because everything's been Man of Steel or Batman
because it was
Superman
just the whatever that era was just Man of Steel. So I had this. I figured you said Superman. This is what we're watching the Christopher Reeves, and then I had this horrible thought. I'm like, what if he's talking about that Man of Steel one?
No. That original Christopher Reeves.
That was not good.
No.
So
we gotta watch like it's not good, but like also not good. Like if this is not good, it's a period of time why it's not good. That's not good because they just didn't make it.
That is just not good. Yeah, that is just not good. Like,
so all there is. No, we're not gonna watch that. Maybe one day we'll watch that, but no.
Yeah, Superman the movie is like iconic. Like
yes. I think that's the whole point. So, but until next time, Paul, Galactic Comics and Collectibles, where you can buy Pokemon, but you can't buy Pokemon because
you can't buy Pokemon because there isn't any. You can now buy comic books again.
That was a whole thing, man.
So. Oh yeah,
you had more than 6 people online.
I had 11.
Did you have to just tell people at the end that you couldn't come in, or
we handed out tickets, and then immediately after people started coming in, they're like, "Is there more?" And like, no, sorry. The
I thought about that when I got home that night. That after I seeing you on the Thursday night was like you were so annoyed with people calling and saying, "Hey, can I buy it early? Can I buy it?" You actually ready. I don't wonder how more annoying it was going to be at 4:00 in the afternoon Friday. Someone coming in and be like, "You have any?" Because I used to hate that.
I hung a sign on the door that just said, "We're out."
I hated that about working retail on Black Friday where people would come in and be like, "You have that special computer?" It was like, it's 7:00 at night. What do you
we sold out of those at 4 a.m.
I don't know where you've been, but like I know you overslept, but like I don't.
Yep. No, it was. That was a lot.
So we'll do that, and then honestly, so right after that, I don't know what we're gonna do after that. After Superman the movie, I think I had you written down somewhere here. Where's Paul Eaton? Oh, it's empty. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. We have 2 empty ones. I have one scheduled for June, releases in July. That is a 40th anniversary that we'll talk about, and we'll hype it up a little bit. But yeah, Paul, see you around, buddy.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you.